Silver sulfadiazine. Silver sulfadiazine. Good morning, Reptilians. Welcome and welcome back to the channel. I'm Elle, and this is Elle's Reptiles. Make sure that you are subscribed and have that bell on because exciting things are coming as soon as it warms up. This week, we are doing a video that one of you guys suggested on last week's video. I actually was about to record a different video, and then I saw this comment, and I was like, that's a really good suggestion. And that person asked for a video about how to prepare a bearded dragon first aid kit. This first aid kit is going to be just in general for any reptiles. So thank you so much. That was a great idea, and I decided to immediately record it. First aid kits are super important to have if you have reptiles because anything can happen. Accidents happen. They can accidentally hurt themselves. You can accidentally hurt them, like cutting their nails. They can get sick. Anything can happen. So it is important to have some kind of little first aid kit lying around. And we're just going to talk about what things could go in there. Let's get started. So the first thing to have in that little first aid kit, if you cut your reptile's nails, so especially for like bearded dragons, you can have some little baby nail clippers in there or a nail file. Having something like Quick Stop or whatever brand of Styptic powder you can find in there is super important. What Quick Stop does is it stops the bleeding of your bearded dragon's nails if you accidentally cut it too low, if you cut into the quick, or if they snag it on tile or decorations or whatever and it starts to bleed. You just dip their nails in there like you would a dog or a cat and it stops the bleeding. Quick Stop is sold at any chain pet store, usually Walmarts, things like that have it too, but if you can't find it, you can also use cornstarch. I've never used cornstarch, but I heard that it works very well and it's cornstarch, so it is safe for those animals. But having something to stop the bleeding if you or they accidentally snag those nails is pretty important to have laying around. Some sort of dropper or syringe or little tiny squeeze bottles are also important to have in there. This is going to help if your bearded dragon gets sick and they don't want to drink water, having to give them any kind of vitamin or calcium supplements directly into their mouths. If they have stopped eating and you're having to give them something like carnivore care, or if your vet has given you medication to give to your bearded dragon, this is going to help administer that medication because obviously you don't really want to just open up your reptile's mouth and just put medicine in there because they have teeth and that's how you get bit. Number 3 is some sort of reptile eye rinse. This is very important if your reptile gets something in their eye, especially if you're using any kind of loose substrate at all. It doesn't matter what kind it is. Potentially they can get something in their eye. That's just going to help get it out. This also could be super useful if for some reason a bug bites your reptile's eye, which does happen sometimes. It just makes sure that it is flushing bacteria out of those eyes. This can be ordered from beardeddragon.co, from Chewy. I think that chain pet stores might sell it, I'm not really sure, but some sort of reptile eye rinse. I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but Vetericin? But it is basically a wound cleaner. So if your bearded dragon wounds themselves, if they get cut on anything in their tank, somehow Morty cut the top of his nose at one point, but if anything like that happens, then it's good to have something to flush those wounds out, again, especially if they are on any kind of loose substrate, any kind of bioactive substrate, anything like that, so that it doesn't get infected. This also can be super helpful if they are having trouble shedding or if they aggressively rip the shed off and expose scales underneath. It's good to be able to rinse that out. Silver sulfadiazine is an Silver sulfadiazine is an antibiotic cream that you can use in the case of your reptile getting hurt. Again, it's going to be something that you need just in case. This is what I use for Morty when he scratched his nose on something. I've used this for Percy when she has aggressively ripped shed off of her face and cut her face open, because she does that every single time she sheds. She just rips it right off. This can be a little bit tricky to find. I had to get mine from my vet, but it was as simple as me calling up my vet and just saying, hey, one of my lizards cut his face and it's really red. They just had me come pick up some of that to put on it every day, and we were good to go. Always super helpful to have in that kit just because you don't know if something like that could happen, so you want to have that just in case. A washcloth is also very important to have in there because if you have to administer any sort of medication to that animal, it's not fun. The best way that I've found to administer medication to reptiles is to wrap them gently like a little reptile burrito in a washcloth, and that way they are not kicking, they're not clawing, they're not squirming, they're just like a little, kind of like you would wrap up a newborn baby, like just swaddling the reptile, and it calms them down. It makes it a lot easier to be able to get the syringe into their mouths to administer that medication and keep your fingers and arms and all of that safe from claws. Cotton swabs. This is just kind of in any first aid kit for animal or human. It's helpful for lots of different things, to help clean wounds, to help put medication on wounds, help get something out of a reptile's eye, to help get stuck shed off of snakes' eyes. They're just super helpful for lots of different things, but they should be in your first aid kit as well. So just like with cotton swabs, tongue depressors are also super helpful just to kind of move things out of the way. If you need to look into your animal's mouth, that way you're not putting fingers in their mouths because teeth. Just to kind of be able to look in there in case you're needing to check, like, I don't know, a crested gecko's calcium deposits, or for any kind of infections or teeth or anything like that. Tongue depressors are good for that. Pedialyte is really good to have in there. If you have a severely dehydrated reptile, giving them Pedialyte is helpful as opposed to just water, because you're also giving them electrolytes and you are replenishing their bodies. And yeah, it's super helpful to have in that kit just in case. And a shedding helper. Shedding helpers, I feel like, should always be in there. It's not really first aid, but if you notice that your reptile is having a very hard time shedding, like toes or tips of tails, any sort of appendage that is irritating to them or that could result in a loss of that appendage, then you definitely should do something about it pretty quickly. And shedding helpers are a great way to do that. I always keep shedding helper around. I put it in their bath if they're shedding and they need a bath. I spray it on them if I notice that there's like a spot that hasn't shed, or if I notice that their toes haven't shed yet and they're going into moist side for like leopard geckos. And a kitchen scale. I'm not really sure if this counts as having it in the first aid kit, because I feel like everyone that has reptiles should have a kitchen scale, but a kitchen scale is really good for monitoring weight, especially if we're looking at sick reptiles, injured reptiles, to make sure that they're getting up and they are eating like they're supposed to and they're not losing weight, especially if you're concerned about things like parasites. Having a kitchen scale is super important. Again, I'm not really sure if it should be included in the actual first aid kit, but I thought I'd throw it on the list anyway. And this last one is optional, but it could still be important, and that is just medications. This is optional because if you don't feel comfortable administering medication to your reptile without the supervision of a vet, then don't do it. Just go to the vet, have them tell you what to give the animal, how much to give them, how often, have them do all of that for you. If, on the other hand, you don't have access to a vet, or you do feel comfortable administering medications for things like parasites, having medications in that first aid kit is awesome as well. So things like Panicure, any kind of liquid foods for animals that don't want to eat, any kind of electrolyte powder, probiotic powder, vitamin powders that you can administer for them not eating, or them just generally not feeling well, their poops not being the right consistency or whatever. Having all of those in there is going to be helpful in those situations. You also can put things in the medication section of this, like fecal float test. You can actually buy from beardeddragon.co. Again, not sponsored by them, they just have a fantastic supply of Bearded Dragon stuff. Beardeddragon.co has fecal float tests, so you can test your own reptile for parasites. And then you can also buy the parasite treatment from them as well to treat your animal for parasites if they come back positive. And all of that is super inexpensive too. I think the parasite float test is like a couple $. And all of the medications that they sell come with dosing charts as well. So if that is something that you feel comfortable doing, or if you want to have them in there just in case you can't get to the vet doesn't have appointments, you don't have a vet nearby, your vet, I don't know, went on vacation or something, it never hurts to be prepared just in case. And that is it for this list. Again, not sponsored by beardeddragon.co, but I did want to add that beardeddragon.co actually does sell a first aid kit. If you just go to their website and look at first aid, they actually sell kits that have medications and stuff in them. It does not come with everything that we talked about here on the list, but it does come with different medications and stuff. So just wanted to throw that out there. But that's all I have. Let me know in the comments below things that you keep in your reptile first aid kits, or things that you have had to use from your reptile first aid kit. That way, hopefully somebody reading those comments, it can help them out. As always, if you have not already, please feel free to follow me on my other socials and like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications every single time I put out a new video, which is every Sunday and some Wednesdays. This week's Instagram shout out is for South Coast McCanna for following me on Instagram and going through and liking a whole bunch of my stuff. And this week's subscriber shout out is for Saroni Macaroni for commenting on last week's video with super important information. They were basically talking about the Competes Act, which is being voted on, which could potentially ban the cross-border transportation of reptiles, actually of all animals that aren't like dogs or cats or livestock, which is super important. So I shared a community tab post about that, so definitely make sure to check that out if you haven't heard about that. Thank you for spreading the awareness there. And yeah, thank you guys both so much for commenting and subscribing and following and all that jazz. You are the bee's knees. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye. I guess that's not helpful. Stop or whatever brand of Styptic powder, like having something like quick. If you can't find Quick Stop is sold. This can be ordered from beardeddragon.co. There's a dog in my alley. This can be, like I said, it's all super expensive. And like I said, it's all super inexpensive. Me on my other socials and like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications every single time. As always, if you have